Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video. Today it's time for a first thing on my channel. I'm going to be doing a weekly wrap-up of the books that I've read the past week. I was actually supposed to put up Friday reads on Friday, but my license to my editing software expired and I couldn't figure out how to use Adobe Premiere Pro because that is stupid. I didn't have any audio sound while I was trying to do things in there. I think I found a free editing software that I can use today so that I can get this up. The reason for me not just renewing my license thing is that I am getting a new computer on Monday, which is a MacBook, and it has the iMovie feature free on there, and I already use iMovie on my phone when I film, so I do the rough editing on my phone. So I feel like maybe I already know that software a little bit, so I will easily be able to adjust to that and see how that works. And it is free, and see if I can use it for... the only thing that I need is to add layers, image layers for my covers, and text layers if I have anything I want to add text-wise. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, very big thank you to everyone who's commented on my recent video where I was talking about how I wanted to do my wrap-ups. It was really nice to get all your feedback, and basically the gist of what I got was that as long as I do whatever makes me happy when I film them, then they would be watching them regardless. And so that was nice to know. I'm doing a new rating system which I've written down in my old book journal that I used before I started my bullet journal. So I'm using that to write down every book that I read, and I rate them after that system. So the system that I use is something called the core pile rating system, where you take in all of the different features of the book as you've read it and rate them from 1 to 10, and then the score you divide it by 7, and then the final score would determine the ratings afterwards. And so you have to consider the characters, the atmosphere, the writing style, the plot, the intrigue, the logic, and the enjoyment. And when it came to graphic novels, I had to do it a little differently. So I just changed the atmosphere to be the art style that I was talking about. And then the rest was the same. I start out with one of the graphic novels that I read last weekend, and that was Descender Volume 3 by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. This is a graphic novel series that is set in this universe where they've had these robots. They were a big part of the universe at one point, but people got scared because they seemed to take over control of a lot of things, so they were all basically destroyed, except Tim 21 was one of the only ones survivors of those robots, and Tim 21 is the one we follow in the story. So it's an AI story, and I'm enjoying it a lot. The art style is done in watercolor, which is something I really enjoy. I think the art style is very delicate, but I just really love it, and I think that it works well with the story. So I just forgot to mute my TV. I had Le Mans running, so that that uses a bit of noise. Anyway, let's wrap this up. So according to the new system, I will rate the characters first, and I really enjoy the characters in this. Tim 21 is my favorite character in this, and I really like the storyline where he's trying to get reunited with his friend from the childhood when he was taken in by this family, and this boy and him became best friend. The boy is now grown up, but they were separated when he was still a boy, and they're trying to find each other, and that storyline I really enjoy. I think they're really interesting characters, both of them. I really like Telsa as well. She's one of the female leads in this, and she is a pretty strong character. So I gave the characters 8. I think that those things really made this a great comic book, and I gave them a score of 8 out of 10 for that. The art style get a 10 out of 10 because I really just love the art style. There's not a lot of things I can say that makes it bad. The writing style, I mean, here is more like the dialogue between the different characters, and I feel like the dialogues are always pretty interesting for the most part. There are certain parts where it was a little boring because it got repetitive, a little bit repetitive, especially with Scoop and Driller, because it's just about Driller the killer and all of that, and that's just a little bit boring. So I give the writing style 8 out of 10. The plot was thinner than usual because there was all of the backstory to it, so I gave that 7. For the intrigue, I was very happy to find out more about this certain characters. However, I missed Team 21, as I said, so I gave this 7. So I would have liked to have even more from Team 21, who was my favorite character. Logic, I feel like it tied some things together in a good way compared to the other volumes, so I give that an 8. And the overall enjoyment of this will, with a few things amiss, I gave it 8. So it's an average score of 8 out of 10, and that gives this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next thing that I also finished was Saga Volume 7. This is by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is one of the most popular graphic novel series on BookTube. One of the first graphic novel series I picked up as well. I really have been enjoying it. I can't say a lot about this specific novel, but this follows a family, a bit of a dysfunctional family, where these two people have gotten together, had a baby, and they're from two different... I mean, one is from a specific planet, the other one is from the moon, and they're not supposed to be together because they're at war with each other, so it's a forbidden love, and they had a baby, and now everyone wants to get rid of that baby by killing her. And this entire graphic novel series is basically told from the baby's perspective. And if I go into my rating system, the characters get an overall of 8, yeah, because I really love almost all of the characters in this, and I also actually enjoyed the new characters that we were introduced to in this one that we never met before. Those were really interesting and cute in ways, and the art is also really great. I think I love how colorful it is. Like, let's see, this is like 1 page, but this is more like brownish, and this one, I think that looks cute. It fits a lot with the atmosphere of the story, I think. I give that a 9 out of 10. It's not as... I don't love it as much as the Descender volume, so it gets a slightly lower rating for that. The writing, I've always found it pretty good. The dialogue is interesting, so I gave that 8 out of 10. Plot-wise, as I said, this seems as if it's not getting very far anywhere. Like, I don't know what it is trying to do, but it's definitely slowed down plot-wise in this one. So I gave it 7 out of 10. For the intrigue, for the most part I was hooked to the story from the beginning to the end, but there are certain things that worked a little slower because I was interested in the new characters we were introduced to, so I kept wanting to read it. I was a little bit tired at the time I was reading it, so I don't know, but I ended up giving it 8 out of 10. For the logic, I feel like there was a couple of things in this volume that didn't really add up. There are some things that I didn't feel like were explored enough. So I give that 7 out of 10. And for the enjoyment overall, I enjoyed by reading it, not as much as Descender probably. I give that 7 out of 10, but it gives a final score of 7.84, and that also equals a 4 stars. So 4 out of 5 stars for this one as well. The next book I'm gonna get into are the contemporary part of my pile, because I have 2 of those. And the first one is Rusty Nail by Alice Clayton. This is the second book in the Cocktail series. The first book is about this girl called Caroline who moves into an apartment. And she finds out she has a neighbor who has random girls over, like a new one more or less every day, and they have really loud sex, and they have their bedrooms against each other, so therefore it's called The Wall Bang. It was a really hilarious story. Anyway, then she finally meets this man and she hates him, but then they become friends, and then they become a thing. And I enjoyed that book. I thought the first book was really amazing. the humor was really, really great, and the love. I like that it was an enemies to friends to lovers plot, not like going straight into the romance. They were actually friends for a really, really long time in that one. Now this one follows the aftermath. So it is actually when they are in this established relationship, and that was a really interesting experience. I wasn't sure how I'd enjoy it, because sometimes I'll feel like, do they have anything to offer after they've gotten their happily ever after? Do they have anything new going on for them that I would find intriguing enough to continue? First up, the characters. I just really enjoy both Simon and Caroline. I think there's individually they're really interesting characters. They have a lot of things that they've dealt with in previously before they knew each other, and together they work really well as well. I feel like, and they have some qualms with each other, and they seem realistic. For the atmosphere, as usual, it is pretty humorous, and it continues the sort of tone and style that was in Wallbanger. And so both characters and atmosphere gets an 8. The writing style was okay, and the pacing was really good. I don't have anything to say about it. I gave it 8 out of 10. Plot-wise, at first I thought I would not find this as interesting, because it's just, do they have anything to give? But I was actually surprised to find it was really interesting following an established relationship and following the problems that they had with each other, because it was not just them having all the happiness all the time. It was realistic problems they had with each other, and also the good things that happened with them. Like, yeah, I found that a lot more interesting than I thought I would. So I give that 9 out of 10. For the intrigue, I was pretty intrigued for the whole thing. I wanted to keep listening to it. The audio was really interesting. Had a really great narrator, and that helped a lot as well. But I give that 8 out of 10. For the logical part, I give that an 8 out of 10 as well, because it seemed realistic to a lot of other couples and what they're going through. So for me, that was working really, really well. And the challenges that they faced, both relationship-wise but also individually, those seemed pretty realistic as well. Like things that's a hurdle you have to get overcome sometimes. And that was a good thing that you did that, and I gave that 8 out of 10. Enjoyment, I just enjoyed it a lot, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. So it's like, it's straight up great contemporary romance and a good sequel to the first book. So this ends up getting a score of 8.14 out of 10, like an average score, and that equals 4 stars. The next thing that I finished was Wedding Night by Sophie Kinsella. This is a chick lit book. I've read like almost all of Sophie Kinsella's standalone books. I just still need to read her very newest release that was released this year, and then the release that she released last year. This one follows 2 sisters. It starts out with this one girl, one of the sisters, called Lottie, or Charlotte. She's called Lottie in this. And she has been with her boyfriend, partner thing for quite a few years. And so she's expecting her partner to propose to her. And when he doesn't do that, at the time that she was completely sure that now was the time, she has a complete meltdown and decides to leave him, because if he's not going forward with anything, she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And so instead, she meets up with an old flame, like from 15 years ago, that she had a fling with, and within 2 weeks she's married to this man. And then her sister takes it upon herself before they're married that she's trying to bring them apart, to convince them that it's not a good idea to get married with someone you've not talked to for 15 years. But she doesn't make it on time, so before she knows they are married, they're on their honeymoon. So she's just trying to wreck their honeymoon by making sure that they don't commit their marriage on the wedding night, or the honeymoon in general. And so, yeah, that is the basic plot. Yeah, so let's get into my ratings for this. First up, the characters, they get 5 out of 10. I I had really hard times with Lottie, the person who decides to get married with a man after I have not seen him in 15 years. I can't get by that thought that you just jump into something not knowing just because you're so desperate to get married. I mean, that just seems so unrealistic and something that I could not understand one bit. And although I enjoyed the sister more, the way that she handled it, I don't know if that was a good idea, because the way that she wanted to wreck her sister's engagement, wreck her sister's wedding night, so that they didn't consummate the relationship, so that they could get an annulment without getting divorced, because that was the whole point about it all. And it just, yeah, while she was definitely more one I could relate to at certain points, she was still very flawed in a way. And I think, as I was reading this, Shannon asked me if characters has to be someone I like in order for me to give them a high rating, and I guess no. But in this case, I just think that this was too over the top. It was too unrealistic. The characters just didn't make sense to me, and that's why I give them 5 out of 10. It's a different thing if I don't like them, but they make sense towards the plot. That makes sense, that they're complex in a way, but I don't agree with them. I can give them a higher rating. So this one is just, it's just too out there. The atmosphere I gave that an 8. I'm a little surprised I gave it that high, but it's just a typical Sophie Kinsella atmosphere. She has a specific writing style, which I also gave 8, which is the same in all of her books. You can tell it's her style, and the atmosphere is the same thing in all of her books. Plot-wise, I give that a 4, because again, it's too far-fetched. It doesn't make sense. And the intrigue, I give that 6, because there were periods of time over the book that I actually enjoyed it, but there were other periods of time where I was just feeling like I just want this book to be over. So it was kind of a mediocre, but by the end of the book, like the last 20%, 15%, I actually really enjoyed it. That part I really enjoyed, so that's why I give that a 6. And the logic gets a 5, because I can't get by the plot. I can't get by the characters. I can't deal with it. So yeah, and the enjoyment, as I said, it redeemed itself towards the end, and that made both all of the characters more believable. And had they been like that from the beginning, I would enjoy it, because I actually liked the romances that ended up happening. But why did it have to? Yeah, that annoyed me, and I feel a little bit like Sophie Kinsella cheated her audience in this one. That's what I'm feeling like after I've read. So this one got a finals rated score of 6, which equals to 3 out of 5 stars. The next thing I read was Born Wicked by Jessica Spotswood. This is the first book in the Cahill Chronicles. This is a trilogy, and this is a historical set witch urban fantasy story. It's a YA, so it's appropriate to read for the younger audience as well. But it follows 3 sisters. Basically, it follows the oldest of 3 sisters. So she's the one we see the perspective from. And we're getting into the story at a time when, after her mother has passed away, we find out going into this that she has to decide whether she's to find an eligible man to marry, or if she's to join the sisterhood before Christmas. Like, this is set in September or something. It starts in September or something, and she has to make a decision before November so that they can get engaged. She can get engaged or something by December, and she has her birthday like half a year later, when she turns 17. So that she has to be married before she's 17, otherwise she have to go to the sisterhood. Those are the 2 things that she has to choose between. But on the other hand, she also is a witch, and she comes across a letter by her mother, who was also a witch, that tells her that there's a specific prophecy. And when she reads about this prophecy, she has a feeling that it has something to do with her and her sisters, because it sounds like they could be part of that prophecy. So she doesn't know exactly what to do, because she knows that it's important that she figures out how to best get around this, and then she meets some men in her life that she's trying to figure out if she's going to marry them and stuff like that. First up, the characters get a 9 out of 10. I just really enjoyed all of the characters. I enjoyed all the 3 sisters. They had real complex, all of them. They had different things about them that I found interesting. I thought that the relationships you found with both friendships-wise and romantic-wise, and the family relationship she had with her sisters was believable in a way, and I really enjoyed it, and so I gave that 9 out of 10. Going into this from the beginning almost, I found it was pretty atmospheric. I think that the tone was fitting with the story, and I gave that 8 out of 10. The writing gets a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed the writing. It was pretty straightforward and fast-paced, but I enjoy that. I have also read something else by Jessica Spotswood before and really enjoyed that. So I just generally really enjoyed the writing style as well, and the pacing of the story. The plot got an 8 out of 10. I just found that the plot was really interesting. I didn't think it was completely unique, as I've read something with witches before. I like that it was set in the 1800s when witches were hunted and trialed for different things. Even if they are not even witches, people were just, if they had an opinion, they were deemed witches. And so that was a really interesting thing about this that I really enjoyed. The intrigue, I give that 9 out of 10. It was just, as I said, I just really want to just keep on turning the pages. Even when I put it down, I was thinking about the book, when I could get back to it. And so I just all over the book just really enjoyed it. The enjoyment I gave 9 out of 10 as well, because of all of the other factors. Just really enjoyed this book, really was immersed in the story, and I'm very eager to get my hands on the 2nd and 3rd copy, because the ending was quite abrupt and not a cliffhanger, because I expected that to happen as the story went along. But I just want to know what's going to happen in the next couple of books, and highly enjoyed it, very much recommended. And the scoring gets an 8.7 out of 10, and if it had reached a 9, it would get a 5 out of 5 stars, so really close to 5 stars, but it gets just a really high 4 stars for this one. So these were all of the books that I read this past week. So this was all I had for you today. I hope it wasn't too long. I actually feel like I've been filming for quite a while. I hope that I can cut a lot of this out. But definitely let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I've been reading. If you're planning on picking any of the books up, also let me know about that. And also let me know if you like this sort of wrap-up version that I'm going to be doing now. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!